All right, everybody. Welcome to Legends Find a Way podcast number 21. We got Rob Reynosa of Thinc. My man, we need to be doing more of that in this day and age. Talk to us, brother. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, dude. Appreciate it. I like
100%, dude.
Yeah, tell you about Think. You want to hear about that?
Oh, dude, we want to hear about Thinc. We want to hear about just your life, your journey, sort of how we connected for Peeps just to understand. Rob was actually one of the first people that I met but didn't know I met on Instagram, right? We met because he created this really cool page called Thinkin' at the time. This is like 2016 before Instagram was what it is now. Like it was a really dope page because it was lots of cool graphic posts with really like insightful quotes and things to make you think, right? No pun intended. And by the way, peeps, it's think with two C's at the end, right? So
Thinc. So one C.
one,
Thinc. Yeah.
one C, excuse me, right? And I thought that was super cool. And so I reached out to him and I was like, dude, how did you make this? And you're like, yo, just use this app and just do it. And I was like, oh, cool. And by the way, who are you? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm Rob. And then we connected, but we didn't actually get to have our first conversation till like last week. So yeah, dude, definitely illuminate a little bit of your journey, kind of how you got here, how you started your page and what that's come into.
For sure, man. Just real quick, I appreciate you like sharing your perspective of like what you saw and like what you came across back then of Think, because it's like when you're in it, like when you're whatever it is that you're creating, you kind of get lost in it. You don't really see what it really is and how other people are perceiving that. You know what I mean? Whatever work you're creating. And so I really appreciate you like giving me that intro as far as like describing your perspective of that, as far as the graphics, insightful content and whatnot. I really do appreciate that.
1000%.
What year was that? Because there's a it depends on the year because there
I
is
mean,
more.
I think that was 2016, dude. That
That
was
was
your page was one of the first pages I came across, I think.
okay. So real quick on there because this is why I asked because I think it was in 20 I had it in 2015, maybe 2016 is when I showed my face for the first time because it was always just the logo, just the brand. And then you had the content and then all that stuff, the copy, all the words, all that stuff. Um, I had never put up anything of myself to reveal who I was. And so when I first revealed myself, and I really do think it was in 2016, a lot of people are like, "You're a dude? You're a guy? That you were a chick? That you're a female?" Because of the style of writing and like how deep it was, and it just was different. It was very different, and it's it was very different even for me too because I never considered myself a creative, an artist, a writer. I like whatever, however you want to describe that. Like being able to express yourself creatively. I never considered myself a creative person, and I remember fighting somebody who was reading. She had read my cards. A year before that, like in 2015, or maybe actually it was in 2014. She had read my cards, this woman, and she was like,
Like
"You're
tarot cards. Like what kind of
tarot
cards?
cards, yeah."
Okay, right on.
I signed up for tarot cards, but ended up being an angel card reading, and I'm like, "What is an angel card?" I didn't know anything about that. And the woman's like, "Just trust me, she's really good. If you don't like it, you can have your money back." And like my intuition was like, "Just do it, just do it." And so, long story short, at the very end, like both of us are like in tears because she's telling me all this stuff, and it's stuff that like I didn't want to believe because I'm like, it sounds crazy. Like all of this stuff sounds crazy. Like I'm not. First of all, I'm not a creative person. This is, you know what I mean. I have very minimal self awareness at that point. I'm deep in the personal development world and work, but like when it came to myself, as far as like being more self aware of like my own abilities, I was blind to it. And so that's when I started to, after that one session that I had this with this woman, I started to take her advice and I started just sitting in front of my desk and writing whatever came to mind. And it's this exercise actually. I think it might be really helpful for your audience as well too. I share this with my clients. Whenever you feel stuck or whenever you feel like you can't get the flow coming out, or whenever you just want to get into flow, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's singing, rapping, typing, whatever it is, whatever the flow looks like to you, tell your ego mind, the chatterbox mind, to shut up and go to the corner of the room and leave me alone for 10 minutes. Just stay in the corner of the room, leave me alone for 10 minutes, and then you just go to work. You just let whatever's there flow out of you. And I did that. And I still do that till this day. I don't have to consciously tell it to go. It's just a switch now that I turn on and off. But that changed everything. I'm like, the first time this stuff came out, of course, it wasn't like anything good. But it was better than what I thought I was capable of. And I just kept sticking to that practice of writing every day. And then I finally was like, you know what? I've had this like idea of there not being any limit to potential, to your capacity or to your capability, right? Or to your thinking, to the way you function in life. And I remember like being really obsessed with Napoleon Hill and all his books and all basically anything related to personal development and mindset and all that stuff. And I remember I was obsessed with like my passion at the time was trying to find my passion. I was obsessed trying to find out what I'm passionate about and what my purpose is about. You know what I mean? So I'm putting in the work, I'm putting in the reps of trying to figure this out. And this one random day, this thought came to my mind as I was listening to this song by Jay-Z. It's called "Fuck Up the World," and in the song he says, "We keep, what did he say? Something. We keep topping what we top, yet, and we've yet to hit a ceiling." And that one phrase like stuck out. I'm like, I've heard this song thousands or hundreds of times, but that one phrase stuck out. I'm like, yet to hit a ceiling. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. That's super deep. Like, all right. And I went home and I sat on it, looked up on the internet to see if I can on GoDaddy to find a domain, and there is no ceiling was on there. I'm like, all right, I'll just get it, whatever, it just doesn't matter. And sat on that for another like 6 months, not knowing what to do with it, but just kept saying it to myself. There is no ceiling. What does that really mean? Like there is no limit. Like there is like no cap. Like what does that mean? And then I'm running down the street and I'm like, I have to come up with a good acronym. And I love to run, especially by the beach. I get like clear-headed and everything comes to me. Great ideas come to me.
Dude, you just blew my mind. I never realized that there is no ceiling is Thinc. I didn't even know that.
Really?
That's awesome. I just ruined the story for everybody, but keep going. Oh my gosh.
I saw your face too, like thinking about it. Like, wait, what?
Go ahead. All right, back. You're running.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, so I'm running, and I'm like, I love running by the ocean. It gives me I get great ideas, and I get into that flow state. And I'm like, the acronym Thinc, that's not gonna fly, man. That's not gonna work, Rob. That ain't gonna work. Thinc sucks. And I'm like, think. There is no limit to how you think. There is no limit to how you think. Oh my! And I remember I was like a mile in, and I typically run about 4 to 5 miles. Mile in, I'm like, I'm done. I'm turning back around. I'm going back. I have to write this down and get this thing going. And I still sat on it for another couple months. And that's when I first started to, after I got over that part, I started to publish or post on Instagram homemade little designs that sucked, and my writing was just very simple. And I remember maybe about like 8 months later sticking to it, doing it every day, not knowing like what I'm going to do with this. It was just kind of for fun, just trying to getting my expression out. Right. Just putting the reps of my creative expression. I teamed up with some other people who were running these accounts where you shout out people and stuff like that. And at that time, like that really worked, as far as the algorithm goes, and getting followers and stuff and getting more eyes on you. And that's when my account started to climb pretty fast and steady. And it was right around that time where I was like, man, people started reaching out to me and asking me questions about the content and like, what is this? This is really inspiring. I've had people, I remember it was that first year, I had like 3 or 4 people say, I was like about to like end my life and I was contemplating suicide. And because of what you write, I don't want to do that. I want to live. And I'm like, I even feel like myself getting choked up talking about that now. I was like, oh my God, this is something bigger than me, man. This is something way fucking bigger than me. Like this. And then I got nervous about that. I'm like, that's a responsibility. Like, what is going on here? And then it wasn't until about a year after that, I started to really I started to entertain ideas on how I can monetize this, what I can do with this. And to be honest, I still don't even know what to do with Thinc. There is no ceiling. I don't know what to do with that. But what I did find out of that process of just following my gut and then just putting in the reps and just being self-expressed and tapping into these areas where I was limited all the time, which was my self-expression, I kept putting in those reps and other doors of opportunities kept opening up. Like things that I never even dreamed of kept opening up for me. And I'm like, all right, it's not even about this brand. It's not even about the logo. It's not about this. It's literally following your intuition, putting in the reps, tapping into your higher self, doing the work, and there really is no ceiling. And from there, I started to pivot into building my own personal brand, and I became obsessed with trying to help as many people as I can through the vessel of coaching. And now I'm still doing coaching. I still do one-on-one coaching, business coaching too as well. But I'm kind of pivoting a little bit more now into branding and marketing. Where my goal is to work with elite athletes and whatnot, and also help with their branding and marketing. So from being obsessed with finding a passion and finding my purpose, I've gotten to this point, and it's been a long 6-7 years, but it's been worth it, man. That's
Holy
the
cow.
story.
Dude, that's crazy. It was so cool me like kind of catching on and realizing that that made that sense. And peeps, I'm gonna link all of Think's stuff below and Rob's stuff so you can check that out and scroll back to some of the original posts because the one thing that I really liked about it, Rob, that I thought was so cool was that you would have a certain like, and this is obviously very mainstream now and everyone's doing it, but back then it was like not. There was only a couple accounts that were like that, but you would have like some really insightful quote or some really insightful dialogue on the picture, and then you had it faded slightly, but behind the image represented maybe a contradiction or a deeper dive or a symbol that helped you to kind of associate, oh wow, and like think outside the box a little bit. And for me, that's what really caught my eye, and I was like, dude, I want to do that. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. Thank you again for painting that picture. I got reconnected to that again because I've lost touch with it as much, like as I used to be compared to how I used to be.
Sure, of course, yeah.
Thank you for saying that. That kind of created another reconnection on that. And that was my purpose too, is to literally to make you think, man, to make you think differently about yourself and your world. Because we do get so caught up in thinking how we've always thought based off of stuff we've always been taught, right? And so like we get caught up in these in this like tunnel vision essentially, and that's all you know. And so because that's all you know, that's just how you operate. You can't grow beyond anything else that you don't entertain. And so my thing with there is no ceiling think, and then also like I feel like I've integrated that into myself as far as like that's just how I operate. The main thing I think that there really is no cap on, there is no ceiling on, is your imagination and your ability to tap into your imagination, but also your ability to tap into what I think is above imagination, which is like source energy, the universe, right? And being able to channel that energy and use your mind, literally just use your mind to communicate, and then integrate that in your system through action, right? There is no limit to that, right. And that's like that was kind of what I was always trying to paint. Like I was trying to paint that picture. Like you can do whatever you want. You just got to be clear about what you want, know what you want, and use this mind, because what we see in the world right now is all suggestion from the outer world that's suggesting to us fear and chaos and fighting and all that other bullshit, right? And for those who do know about, like I'm sure you know about this too as well, like how our mind works is through suggestion. It's what is suggested to you or what you suggest to yourself. So how you talk to yourself, what you feed your mind, the books you read, the entertainment you entertain with, right? So it's like whatever, I always say this too, is like whatever you feed your mind in private shows in public.
Love
and
that.
so and so like whatever it is you're feeding your mind, that's what you're going to express. That's the reality you're going to create, right? And so my thing is like use your mind to entertain the reality and the thoughts and the ideas and the circumstances that you want, not what you don't want. And so we've been trained to always focus on our reality, bitch about our reality, complain about our reality. We want to change this, we want to change that. But are you really looking at yourself though first? And why, and asking yourself, why am I complaining about this? Why am I focused on this? Why am I worried about this? Like, what's that about? Right. And so that's in a nutshell, that was my main intention always.
I love that. I love that what you feed in private shows in public. That's terrific.
Yeah, dude, I got that from, like what I'm sure you've heard that too, as far as like relating to your bodies, like what you eat in private shows in public. And that I took that and put a twist on that.
Love that. That's good. Everyone remember that one. That one's big, right? Not obviously a lot of stuff here, but now my question is like, so think became a thing, imagination, uncap it, let that genie out of the bottle, right? If you will, which I agree with 1,000%. And, it's so interesting when, I think about just the imagination in general and just the ridiculous governor that's on most people's. And I wonder, and I think people are naturally more creative than other people. Like that's definitely a thing, but obviously everyone's capable of doing some sort of creation. But with the imagination, I mean, obviously you created something that we were able to connect through. I mean, if you hadn't created Think, we wouldn't even be here right now having this conversation, most likely, because Rob would have been still an enigma for me. Maybe we were still connected, who knows? But now my question is this. So like you started with Think, and the last 7 years you've done, it sounds like you started to move into a lot of coaching. And I really believe that, in business, I think that the best business people are really great coaches, regardless of what their position is, because if you want to inspire someone to do something, you need to be able to communicate with them, which means you probably need to understand what they actually want and who they actually want to become, so you can help them with the motivations, inspiration, and the right strategies so that they can become that. So talk to us a little bit about how your coaching worked and like some of the things you've learned or cool things you want to drop as far as like kind of how your journey unfolded.
Yeah. So how my journey unfolded, I started to get into, I got into Landmark. You know about Landmark. That was right before I created Thinc, but that opened up a big, huge door to me, into the coaching world per se. More so like understanding my own power and potential, but more of like have the relationships I developed, having that support of people who believed in you more than you believed in yourself, because that was the case. I didn't really believe in myself. I didn't even consider myself a leader at that time. But because I had the support around me like that and consistently reinforcing what they saw in me, that helped catapult me to an entirely different level than I ever imagined for myself. And I couldn't imagine it for myself because I didn't see myself as that. I wasn't using my imagination to bring myself up at that time. And so having that support system, having people reinforce these patterns that I didn't even know I wanted, helped me greatly. And so I remember that impact, and I'm like, damn, I want to be able to do that for the people.
Well, here's a question for you. I don't want to cut you off, but I'm gonna. What kind of stuff were you doing with Landmark at the beginning phase? Because I think there's a lot of people who are at that point of like, I don't really believe in me that well, but they haven't found people that believe in them to bring them up. Can you give us a little bit of enlightenment on that?
Yeah, as far as like what I was saying or what you asked, or like in Landmark specifically.
Yeah, like at the beginning of your journey, like what kind of things were they doing with you that helped to bring you into new awareness and kind of start to create that confidence?
It was I would say the first layer that was peeled off, and I'll say it in layers because everything's in layers, right? The first
Love
layer
that.
that I was aware of and that got peeled off was the layer of realizing that I'm responsible for everything that happens in my life, and that the only thing I have control over is my response to what's happening. And the other layer that was right beneath that, because once you accept responsibility, then you realize that everything that's ever happened to you, you're responsible for that too. And you have the power to still hold on to it and allow it to affect you and bring you down and weigh you down. Or you have the power to become basically friends with it, acknowledge it, and let it go so it doesn't hold you down anymore. Those two layers were super important. Like I can't work with people even now, like in my coaching relationships, my business. I can't work with somebody who's not willing to get through those two layers. It's impossible, because whatever else comes after that, it's going to go right over your head. You're always going to be pointing fingers and blaming and being a victim, right? So those two layers were huge, and that's what I learned through Landmark, of course. And I did this program like right after. It was this leadership program, this 8-month program that kicked my ass every single day. I never thought a program could ever do that to somebody. It was very in your face, very, very confrontational in a positive way. Because it was confrontational because you're having to look at yourself and show up in different ways, in powerful ways. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to crumble and you're going to try to run away and self-sabotage everything. And because everybody's around you, they're like, we see what you're doing. We know what you're doing. You can't mess with us. Like, we've been through this too before, right? And you can't run away. So having that support again was huge. And some of the stuff that we were doing in that leadership program, it the biggest impact that I had from there, like, and I can just speak from my own perspective, my own experience, were these self-expression exercises. And I've done this in workshops with people in my workshops, and it was huge for them as well. One of them is a mirror technique that we did, where we would stand in front of a full body mirror, get a bring your own mirror, stand in a full body mirror. Your backs are to the center, so everyone's facing out and around towards the mirrors. And they're reading off these cards, and they're having you tap into the most happiest person you could possibly be right now. Like, whatever happy is to you, tap into that and go 100%. Same thing with sad, anger, like all these different expressions, all these different emotions. And when it came to like, I forget what it was. I think it was like screaming or something, or yelling. I couldn't do it. It was like very like small. And they were like, Rob, like, what's going on? And like, your coach comes up and like, what's going on? Like, we need you to turn it up. Like, why are you stopped here? And there was another one too. I think it was like happy too as well. Like, I just kept, I kept plateauing at like 50%. Then I started to dry heave. Like, I wanted to throw up. Like, there was a knot in my throat. I got chills, dude, talking about this. I haven't talked about this in a long time.
Wow.
I started dry heaving, and then they took me out of the room, and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you gonna pass out? Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, and I started crying, and they were like, they're all smiling and looking at me. I'm like, "Why are you guys laughing at me?" And they're like, "You're having a breakthrough. This is really huge. You know why you're being stopped in there? You know why you can't get that out? Is because that's how you're showing up in life. You can't be your full you. You keep blocking yourself." And I was like, "Oh my God." And it was so true. Like, I kept blocking myself from being my full express self.
Wow.
That was a turning point, a huge turning point in my journey. There was quite a few other ones where you have to do like presentations and speak in front of other people and lead people. And that was difficult too at those times, but that was probably the most impactful exercise that I did in there that helped me, that really helped me and catapult me.
Dude, that's crazy. So I'm imagining this. So like, I have like, it's a big room and everyone's got a mirror. You can kind of see, but can't really see other people, but they're just calling out random things off cards. And then you have to, it's sort of like charades, but for your emotions.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's nuts, dude. It's super nuts. I did a
Wow.
similar exercise in my last workshop. I think it was like maybe, right, like maybe February or January. And I had people do something very similar to that. And it was so interesting to see, to be on the other end and watch these participants not tap into it. And I didn't have enough time to like do what they did to me. I challenged them a bit. And still with the challenging, it was like maybe a 2% increase. And I'm like, damn, this is interesting. And these people are leaders in their industry. You know what I mean? So I'm like, this is really interesting shit, man. Like, this is something that I think all of us though are dealing with, is this limited expression of ourselves. You know what I mean? And most of my clients who I work with, they are battling that. They're trying to get out of their own way. They're in their own way. They don't even realize they're in their own way. They want to create some sort of substance on the planet. They want to impact people, but they don't know how to put themselves out there. And then I show them how to, and then they still don't do it because they're scared. Or it's not because they're scared, it's because, well, I didn't have enough time, or I had this come up, or I broke my leg, or whatever
Yeah.
comes up. There's always something, right?
Always.
But really though, like the breakthrough, the way, I'll just say it here, like what I would like to drop here on this, the best way to really break through in your self-expression is to realize identify your value, like your own value, not your values, what you value, but identify like your own personal value as like, what is it that you're really good at? What is it that you suck at? There's an exercise that I take people through where I have them list out like the five top experiences that had to do with like your business life or your work life or your family life that you could share with others. And a more simpler way I do it now is I have them list out 20 personal experiences that they could teach another person. So 20 personal experiences that you went through that you could share with another person that would help impact them or help change your life or whatever. Like one of them for me would be like, I went through a divorce 9 years ago, something like that, right? And that I was able to maintain my bearings the whole entire time, where in the sense where I didn't get depressed, I didn't downward spiral. I kept my head together. I was meditating a lot at that time. It was right in the beginning of my spiritual awakening, and I was just doing the work on myself, right? And because of that, I was able to maintain peace in my own mind and not break down and not have these crazy breakdowns and spiral downward. So that's a lesson that I could teach to other people easily, right?
Right.
How to maintain your peace in chaotic situations. So that's what I do. That's what I suggest my clients do when you first start. Identify these 20 lessons. What can you share with other people? What can you teach other people? They don't know why they're doing this in the beginning, but it's to battle the whole, what is that called? The something disorder, sabotage disorder. When someone doesn't, imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yes. Because that's a thing now, right? And so,
Well, think about it, right? Like, and it's like people they want to change the world, but like, it's so simple. They want to change the world, but they really haven't done the work for themselves. So it's like, and I wanted to ask you this, like, why do you think people always rush to, and you've heard this many times, why do you think people always rush to be like, I want to make an impact with the world. I want to do this. I want to do that, all in the external, without thinking like there's like maybe some work that needs to be done internally?
that's a great question, man. I'm happy to answer that. Yeah, because they're looking out here to avoid what's in here.
Mm.
So the people that I see who like to fix other people's problems, who always want to be that person to listen and give advice, they're looking to handle everything else but themselves. That's as simple as I can get with that. And so when people do want to make an impact, I really do believe there's a part of them that do want to make that impact. They care about humanity, but you can't impact that which you're not. Like you can't fix, or it's not about fixing. You can't even impact. You can't create a movement. You can't help people if you're broken. If there's certain pieces missing on the inside of you. You know what I mean? So like a lot of the work that I do with people, it's work that I'm still going through too, but to a different degree, right? It's like to a different degree. Like I do a lot of shadow work with people, like helping people get past certain fears, certain belief systems. I also have certain fears. I also have certain belief systems that I know that are holding me back. We all do, right? But a lot of the stuff that I'm helping people with, I've already helped them. I've already done the work myself, so I can
Right.
honestly and with integrity guide them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I believe it is, man. It's just people want to go and fix everything outside. They want change out in the world, but the change begins in here, man.
Yeah. It's so fascinating, dude. And like, oh, it's interesting. What do you feel like what do you feel like when you are like, because I know you do this same as me, when you are like scanning people, when you go out and like do your thing and have like regular conversations with people at like the grocery store, or at like the restaurant or whatever, and you're just talking to people and stuff, what kind of stuff do you feel like what kind of patterns are you seeing like in this age, as far as like we are all moving more towards personal development, personal growth, people are becoming more aware of it? What kinds of things are you seeing as far as like where people should be starting with this stuff on like basic level?
So your question is based off of like what I see in the world right now in my environment. What do I think people should be starting with? Like what I
Yeah, based on what you're seeing.
um, emotional intelligence, understanding EQ, understanding their own emotions, their own thoughts, of course, because that's paired together.
Right.
So understanding your own emotions, like why are you, like when I'm asking why are you, it's like you need to be asking yourself this. I'll just say it in first person. Why am I reacting to what I'm seeing on TV, or why am I reacting to this specific person? Why do I get triggered when I'm spoken to in a certain manner? Or why is it that, and you might not know, they might, people not in the beginning might not know what a trigger really is. It's an emotion. It's basically there's external stimulus that's causing you to react in a certain way, and it's evoking a certain feeling that's inside of you. And you could say an emotion is really something that's stored already there. It's already there, right? You're feeling something in the moment, but an emotion is something that's deeper there. So
Right.
like if you, let's say you call me you're an asshole, Rob. You say that to me, right? And let's say that like, or let's say you're late, because this used to be me in the past. You're lazy, Rob. You know what? You're a lazy piece of shit. Like I would have took that personal back in the day because I kind of was lazy. You know what I mean? So there's some truth to that. I get mad. No, I'm not. I'm not lazy. And I start to argue with you, right? There's something there for me to discover because I got triggered by you, right? What I see in the world are a bunch of triggered people walking around. That's what I see in the world. I see that consistently across. I mean, and it's not just certain types of people, it's everybody that's getting triggered by certain things. And we all do get triggered by stuff. It never goes away. It's just an invite to look deeper into something when you do get triggered. It's a gift. That's how I consider it, right?
Right.
What I do see though are people just flying off the wheel over simple little things. It's not necessary. You lose your power, man. You lose your power immediately when you give that reaction to something external, because it has to be external. It's always external. You're literally handing over your power and saying, you know what, I'm enslaved to you for as long as it takes for me to let this go. That's what happens. You know what I mean? And so when you have a disempowered society, you also have an easily herded and controlled society. That's what I see. That's how I feel that people could start taking their power back if they start to implement awareness around how they feel and why they feel and what is it that's triggering these feelings. Where does that come from? And that's the deeper work that I do with my clients, is discover where that came from. And a lot of times, most times it comes from your childhood. It
Yeah.
comes from something that happened when you were a kid. You took something a certain way and you made a story about it and you kept telling yourself about this. Let's say you were mistreated by, let's say you were lied to by your mom about something, right? And you find out your mom lied. And you're like, oh my God, I can't trust my mom. Like my mom's the closest person to me. It's like the only woman I know at this time. I'm 6 years old and I just found out I got lied to. And then you have another experience later on where another woman lies to you. and then another woman lies to you, and then now you have this story, this running around story, this loop of like, I can't trust women. I don't know why I'm single still. I don't know why I get in these relationships where I'm always being lied to, and not realizing it all goes back to your childhood, right?
Right.
So I know I went on a little bit of a
No, no,
tangent.
dude, so good. So good.
So yeah, everything's linked to your childhood. And so, I mean, obviously I wouldn't suggest going deep into that right now, because if you're trying to go deep into that, you might get scared and run away and never want to do the work again. You know what I mean? But start off though with becoming aware of when you do feel that burning sensation, like in your solar plexus, because typically that's where it starts. Maybe it's in your neck. I know some people get in their neck or their chest or their heart, or they get flushed in their face. I used to get flushed in my face. I used to get real hot in my cheeks, and I'm like, ooh, I'm getting mad about something. What am I mad about? It's this motherfucker. It's irritating. You know, why am I irritated by this person? Yeah, that's how I take myself through it. Like, ooh, I feel this. I feel this in my gut. I don't like this. Why don't I like this? What is there? I'm annoyed. Who am I annoyed by? Oh, what this person said. What did this person say? Oh, she was talking about, you know, I don't know. I'm just making something up. Something political.
Right, right.
I don't even care right now. Like, why is that affecting me right now? And then something happened similar maybe a couple months ago, where someone was saying something stupid and I got triggered by that. I didn't say anything because I don't allow myself to give my power away like that. What it came down to was judgment. It was judgment about something that this person didn't know that they were viewing on TV, that it wasn't an actual fact. It came down to me not, I don't like being judged for things. I hate being judged for stuff and being criticized, not even criticized, just being judged for stuff, especially if it's false. You know what I mean? I'm like, and it came back from a childhood experience where I was being told that I did this and I didn't do it, and they were calling me a liar. You know what I mean? So it goes deep. But all I suggest though for people who are listening right now, start getting curious, start asking questions as to why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Once you start doing that, that's like half the work. Literally,
Right.
that's half the work.
Right.
And you'll stop reacting to things. And you'll stop
Right.
giving power away to things.
Right. Because then you start to have and, you know, to me, that's where it starts, like the word self-control really starts to become a thing. It's like, I actually have self-control. Like, I don't know how to deal with myself when I do get in that way. So that's a question for you too, Rob. Like, you know, because inevitably we are, and one of the things that I love about coaching is that we really are like the archaeologists of the self. We're getting our little hammer and chisel and we're feeling it out. We got a little like mind thing on the beach and we're like, beep, 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 you know what I mean? Like, we're like moving around, figuring out where the stuff is, digging it up. Oh my gosh, this artifact from when I was 7, like, this is why I'm so, you know what I mean? So, but inevitably we are all going to get triggered at some point, like you said, which I thought was really cool. And one thing that came up to me when you were saying that was like, the same way you store an emotion based on someone's external behavior is sort of like when you touch a hot stove, you have a stored, you're like, yo, don't touch hot stove, it hurts, right? It's like, don't trust women, they lie, right? It's like, right, not really, but like in that situation. So that's like how I thought about it. I thought that was super cool. But here's my question for you, because inevitably, even when we start to do that work, we still get triggered. What types of techniques do you do personally after you ask those questions to get yourself a little bit more grounded and come back to homeostasis? Because I know for a lot of people, they get like all buzzed up and they're like asking questions and doing stuff, but they have a really hard time coming back down and relaxing and getting back into the moment. What are your thoughts on that?
First thing that comes to mind is what I always do is just, I always have control over my breathing. I can always tell through my breath, like how, like like how I'm breathing, the rate of my breath, like how it's coming out, coming in, inhale, exhale. I can tell if like I'm impacted by whatever's happening. So after I've discovered that I am irritated by something or I'm bothered by something because of something external, and if I'm in a public setting where I can't, obviously I'm not going to go deep into the work. You know what I mean? When I'm with other people like that, I'm gonna have to save it for later. And I think that's probably more, I guess you could say, likely to happen for people because they'll discover something and you can't really go in depth in it. Like, hey guys, I gotta be right back for like 20 minutes while I do some personal development work. It's not
Just goes into the bathroom, starts screaming and yelling, ah!
Yeah, exactly. So, given that type of circumstance, I just pack it away, knowing that I'm going to come back to it because it ain't going nowhere. Because I already know that if I pack it away and I ignore it, it's gonna ferment and grow into something else that I don't want to grow into, and then be impacted again later on or be triggered again later on. So first thing I do is I always breathe. I manage my breath, like what I just did right there. Like it's just kind of slowing it down. I don't know if you could relate to this too, but like Have you ever meditated after a workout?
Oh, I only do that. Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best
Yeah. It's
because you
amazing.
come from way up here to here, like
Oh yeah.
really fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can feel it. You can
Yeah.
feel it like in your chest,
I
your
love it.
body, everything.
It's
So
lit.
it's very comparable to that. Like when you're in public or you're with other people, or it doesn't matter where you're at, and you get triggered, your heart rate increases. Boom, 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 boom. It's going right. And so I already know there's something there. I can identify what it was at least. As long as I can get that far, like, oh, okay, it's this person that's doing this and saying this, or it's the sound of their voice, or whatever it is. It's just the gibberish that's coming out of their mouth. That's what it is. Okay. Breathing. Okay, well, where am I breathing? All right, cool. Let's bring myself down a little bit so I can think a little bit clearer. And then I go into this next mode where I'm like, all right, I can't control this person. This person is who they are. That's it. To the degree that I can accept this person for who they are, I can accept myself for who I am. Not tolerate. I'm not trying to tolerate this person, right? I don't believe in tolerating people, because if you're tolerating them, you're not really accepting them. And if you're not accepting them, you're not accepting yourself, right? I don't tolerate myself. I accept myself and love myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like I get to that point now in my mind, as long as I'm controlled here now, my breathing's controlled. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm calm, I can think, I'm not emotional now, and I'm not triggered. I can't control this person. I can only control my response, and that's my power. That's my power. So what I tell my clients in the very beginning, that your superpower from the very beginning, your superpower is the power to choose. You have the power to choose. And then what does that entail? Per what we're talking about here is you have the power to choose how you respond in every single circumstance. And you also have the power to choose how you feel in every circumstance. Okay. So if I'm not exercising that power, then they have power over me. And so I'm just taking you through what I go in my mind.
I love this. Is so good, dude.
I absolutely am not okay with some other person having power over me. So you know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm not gonna allow that to happen. I want to take back my power. All right, cool. Like, okay, this person's irritating. Okay, this person's saying a bunch of stuff. That's whatever. That's cool. All right, cool. Listen, maybe you learn something from them. Maybe you can hear them out a little bit. Right? Now your ears open instead of being shut down, your eyes open instead of being shut down. Essentially, your mind is open now to receive whatever's there. Because essentially, Graham, dude, everything that we're experiencing, we co-created that experience. We attracted that person, we attracted that trigger. It's there because of us. And so when you realize that, it's like it's not them at all. It's something within me. There's something there within me. You know what I mean? So when you get to that understanding and awareness of emotions and triggers, you realize it has nothing to do with anything out here. It always has everything to do with you, right? So stop pointing the finger, stop blaming these people. It's not them. They're just showing you something about yourself that you don't like, that you're not okay with, that you haven't healed. Right. Was that good?
That was terrific. Peeps, take notes. This is lit, right? And so here's my question, right? Because I think sometimes people when they get what I've been seeing, and maybe you've seen this too, is that when people make the choice to start becoming more aware of themselves and they have that initial breakthrough where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm more than what I thought I was.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Does anyone else think like this too? Those tend to be the same people who a couple months in are like, oh my gosh, like I just don't feel like I have supportive people around me. Like I just don't know, like where am I going to find people who are like, get it, blah, 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 and they get up making a whole fuss and start pointing fingers. And I think a lot of people forget that your actions that you took before that moment when you decided you were going to go be a different person, they still follow you. Like you don't just get to, oh yeah, like we're good now. Like all that stuff I did doesn't exist. Like, no, that existed. So what are your thoughts on when you start to make the shift to do some of this work and you start to catch yourself around those people who are treating you consistently and you come to that awareness of like, maybe these people aren't people I want to be around in the future. I'm not mad at them. I don't hate them. I accept them for who they are, but I don't know if they're really my kind of peeps. What are your thoughts on how you can move into a new area with people that you want to spend time with, or how to attract some of those people that you'd like to be around that understand you and are just much more accepting overall of the person that you are becoming and trying to express versus the learned behavior that other people met via your ego?
Yeah, that's a great question. First off, realizing that, all right, I think a lot of people are attached to the idea that, and let's just use family for example, right?
Yeah.
I know you're asking about people like
other. Dude, go ahead.
let's use family as an example. I think people are attached to the idea that you have to keep your family in your life because they're family, right? Even if it's a toxic relationship with a parent, a sibling, aunt, uncle, doesn't matter who it is. And I'm speaking from experience too, where I don't associate with people. Doesn't matter who you are. If there's a constant trigger, if there's a constant rift, if there's something there, it's tension that's always there, I don't spend any time with you at all. And it takes me a little while to kind of disconnect. But you know, to be, I guess, to really have an understanding of myself, if this is really what I want to do, if what qualities are there that I'm being triggered by, is there something I need to learn from them still, what's there, and then I just kind of detach over time, right? So there is no obligation to keep people in your life if you're just not happy with them, if it's just not working out, if there's always tension, especially if, you know, if you don't, let's say, if, for me, I don't like being around people who talk about others, who talk bad about others. It's like it's a no-go. It's not even something that's even in my reality that I have to even like say, oh, I don't want this, I do want this, because it never happens anymore, right? But if you're around somebody who's talking trash about other people, right, and it doesn't ever really feel good, and you're like, man, I like these people, I don't know what to do. What I like to do, and I'm using this as an example, what I like to do, and this comes down to being able to understand that you can create your reality and create anything that you want in your reality. Like, you have control over that based off of your thoughts, your emotions, your frequency, your vibration. I have the ability to attract whatever it is that I want in my life that aligns with what I want, right? And you have to have that fundamental belief to move into this world of conscious creation. So knowing that, and I'm unhappy with the circle I'm with, I'm not satisfied with these people, I don't like how I feel, it just doesn't resonate, it's just mismatched, I automatically go into, what do I love about these people first? And you can even do this with a partner, like a partner, ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, whoever. You can go into that as far as a partner goes. What do I love about this person? What stood out about this person? Or what stands out about these group of people? Like, what is it about this that I love, right? Always start with what you appreciate, what you love. You know, I like how they're funny, entertaining, you know, they, whatever. Let's say ex-girlfriend. I love how she, you know, knows how to dress. She has great style. She's always honest. Gives it to me straight. Creative mind, yada, 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 a leader. Okay, cool. Now we identify what we love about this. What is it that we didn't like? What is it that we don't like, that we don't appreciate? And I list out everything that I don't like. You know, they bash other people behind their backs. They're rude. They're not going after their goals. They're all talk. You know, they're just lazy people. Like, all they like to do is drink and go out and stuff like that, right? So if I start to identify now the things that I don't like, I flip that now into what I want instead. All right, cool. Well, you know, it's okay to have fun and go out and drink, but just not like I don't want to be around people who are drinking like every single day and getting smashed and waking up at like 1 o'clock the next day. That's not my lifestyle, right? Also, you know, I want to be around people who are more conscious of their bodies and they're fit, they're taking care of themselves, they're eating good food, great conversations. We're talking about goals and, you know, our what we're moving towards, stuff like that. Instead of talking about other people, like, I want to be around people who are like talking great about other people, trying to bring each other up, you know what I mean? And making connections and stuff like that. Same thing with, let's say, an ex, you know, maybe because she was lacking emotional intelligence and she was violent. I don't know, I'm just making some stuff up. Right. Instead of that, okay, I don't want to be around somebody like that. Then I want somebody who's more balanced and who's aware of their emotions. And instead of somebody who throws things and like is always breaking up with me, I want to be with somebody who's more consistent and secure and yada, 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 yada. Do you get what I'm saying?
100%.
So once I get clear on what I want, right? Because I went from, I don't like this, I don't want this. If you stay in that space of, I don't like this, I don't want this, I'm complaining about this, I want something better, but all you're doing is focusing on what you don't like and what you don't want, you'll keep attracting the same stuff. You'll leave the group, you'll leave the family members, you'll leave the partner, and you'll attract, I'm sorry, I spelled myself. You'll attract the same stuff over and over and over again. Over and over and over again, because you didn't do the work yet. You didn't get clear on that stuff, on what you really want instead. You're just complaining, right? So once you start to get super clear on those things, the next thing what I suggest people do is start to now disassociate yourself from the group, or start to kind of disconnect from the person. Maybe even having conversations with the person. Hey, I've noticed this is what's happening. I'm not okay with that. This is what I would like instead. Is there anything that I could do to contribute? Yada, yada, yada. Even with a group of friends too. I've done that before as well. And if nothing changes, then all right, you communicated about it. I'm still focused on what I want. And now this might kind of sound a little woo-woo to people, but my relationship with my reality is that I can create what I want in my life. You know what I mean? Whatever I put my mind to, whatever I'm super clear about and I'm connected to, I will get that. I mean, the girlfriend I have now, Angie, manifested her. Uh, she is like the person that I've been manifesting for years now when I first started learning this stuff, down to a person that loves to run. Like, she's the only person in my relationships, my last couple of relationships, that actually loves to run with me. And so somebody who's health conscious, somebody who pushes me. I wanted somebody who's like, who I also learn from, because I was always like kind of the teacher in relationships. So someone who teaches me stuff, somebody who's like a little bit like rougher on the edges when it comes to like just being a leader. Like, she's not a pushover. You know what I mean? She dresses nice. These are all things that I wanted, that I got super clear about. I attracted this person. I brought her into my life. We co-created this experience, right? I've done this with groups of friends too, as well. Even the people that we're here with now are wonderful people. They match the group of people, the type of people that I love to be around with. You know what I mean? So that all came though from a process of identifying what I don't, or identifying what I do want, doing the process that I shared with you earlier, and then also having that courage to start having communication with those people and having the courage to step away, because you can't hang up new clothes in your closet if your closet's already stuffed. Nothing else is going to fit. It's going to end up on your bed. It's going to end up on the floor. You got to clear out the closet. You got to take stuff out. You got to purge a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's the part where I think a lot of people get stuck on. If they're able to, first of all, most people get stuck on not even being able to get past what they're complaining about and what they don't like. Most people stay in that state. If they can move on to, all right, this is what I want instead, and I'm complete with what's happening here, then the other part is actually being in action. That's where I feel a lot of people get stuck at, right? Where I see a lot of people get stuck at is being able to have the courage to act it out now, to put yourself in a position where you can meet that person, where you can meet those people, and being around this new group.
Yeah, there's, well, first of all, a million amazing things. But one thing that really stuck out to me was the whole idea of like people are trying to bring new clothes into that closet that's full. Like, you
Right.
gotta slowly start to give some of your hand-me-downs away, or sell some of your stuff online on big Facebook Marketplace, whatever. In this case, start to detach slowly from those people that you necessarily don't want to hang out with, so you can start to bring in more of the stuff that you do want to have in your life, right?
Right, right. I just add this into. I just thought about this right now. There was, I just moved to Miami uh, officially, like officially 2 months ago, but I've been here consistently since March. I've been coming back and forth for the last couple of years now, 2 or 3 years, 3 years, 2 years, something like that. And um, the people that I was connected with in California weren't a match for what I'm up to. I have my best friend that lives there, him and his wife and kids. I'm still super tight with them. Like, we're connected like that. We have big visions for what we're doing in life. But I really wasn't connected with many people back there. Now that I'm here in Miami, on the other side of the country, I've met a lot of awesome people who are all like-minded. And when you think of Miami, or at least how I used to think of Miami, it was like this party city and crazy, and you do all the stuff and you go out and whatever, which was my old lifestyle before. But that was my impression of Miami. Being here and connected with my girlfriend and her clique and her people, and meeting other people out here, I'm surrounded by a bunch of other entrepreneurs who fit the mold of what I want, who fit the blueprint of what I've been looking for. And it might take you moving across the country to find this person, right? Same with her too. I met her. She lives in Miami. It might take you moving across the country. It might take you moving to a different country. It might take you moving out of your house. It might take you breaking up with that partner. It might take you you might have to do something
Right.
radical, and you might not have to, but you got to take a step.
Right. The action to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, so freaking true, man. Oh, so much goodness, dude. And so, like, obviously this is all stuff that you've been teaching in your coaching and stuff that you've worked on through yourself. And I know earlier you had mentioned that you were also working towards doing some stuff with like athletes and some marketing and stuff. What's the passion behind all that? Where does that fuel come from?
Yeah, well, I've been an athlete my whole life. like you have to, and you don't have to play a professional sport to be an athlete. Just if you've been athletic and you compete and you do things and stuff like that. So
What sports, brother, for
I
you?
wrestled, and then I've been training jiu-jitsu for
Oh, what? I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. And then I played football since I was like tackle football since I was 7 till freshman year in high school. Then I got into wrestling. I played street ball like half my life growing up to basketball, pickup games, stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, but
Cool.
jiu-jitsu has been like that's my go-to, man. That keeps everything balanced. It's very humbling, very humbling to be choked out. But yeah, no, the mindset though behind athletes, they, I'll compare the two because I was just sharing this with somebody else today too as well. When I first started coaching, I was working with people who wanted to develop themselves more personally, just more personal development, right? What books do you recommend? What can we do to improve how I think now and how I function now? And they never really had any clear goals. They were happy with the job they had, or somewhat happy with the job they had. So it was just personal development work. I found that those, and there's nothing wrong with this, it's just my preference of who I want to work with. From my personal experience, working with people who are just focused on personal development and they don't have any goals they're moving towards, you're kind of pulling them around by a chain, by a collar. You're trying to always push them and push them and push them. There's not a lot of self drive, not a lot of intrinsic motivation, right?
Right.
That's just from what I've experienced, from what I've seen. That I'm not a babysitter, so I don't like to do that. I don't like to babysit people. So when I started to kind of switch and change and pivot and stuff, that obviously changed where I work with a lot more people now who are driven and they're going for something. So they've put their flag in the sand, they burned the boats. They're like, I need to fucking do something, dude. And you need to help me. You know what I mean? So there's no me pushing. It's just like, all right, cool, let's do this, let's work on this, let's go. So there's no problem with them turning on the car and driving, right? With athletes though, like elite athletes, all of that shit's there already. All of that shit's there already. And what I've seen that's appealing to me is that, and it's not to like say that I find glory or fun in this, but it's something that I'm really, really good at though. Our athletes, I'm seeing a pattern. It's there, it's obvious, but athletes who have patterns of that have to do with their mental health, whether it be depression, doubt too, but a lot of like depression, a lot of things, because you know you give your heart and life into your sport, into what you're doing, and a lot of times you neglect everything around you, right? And so you have these problems that are accumulating and things that are growing, and maybe someone in your family is not doing well. Maybe you come from a place where you know you were poor back in the day, and you're dealing with people trying to connect with you or whatever it is. Whatever's happening for all of us. This applies to everybody. It has an impact on our mental health, right? And so it's just very appealing to me to even imagine that working with top people in any sort of sport and being able to have that impact, not on necessarily their performance, but more on the performance of their mind, on how that's functioning. So I see a lot of people targeting people, like for example, athletes, to help them, with their body, which is necessary. Help them with their mindset, developing mindset, stuff like that, techniques, which is necessary. I see a small little sliver of emptiness where there is not many people working on elite athletes and their mental health. And I got inspired by this, what was it called? The Price of Gold. It was this documentary I saw on Netflix a few months back about these Olympians who were all battling with, and these are gold medalists who are all battling with depression, battling with these crazy things going on in their own minds. And when I say crazy, it's not to disrespect anybody. It's just crazy things for themselves, where they're like, I was always happy, and then all of a sudden everything just came crashing down, and having to deal with that. So I just see a big need for that, and so that's what inspires me. That's what makes me want to work with people like that, because for one, you don't need to tell them what to do already. You need to keep reminding them on what to do, right? Because they're already driven, so they already want to do the work. And second, it's like being able to, because I know what it's like too to deal with. I dealt with depression for about 6-7 months before I thought that it was like made up. Like, well, you could choose to be depressed because you get to choose how you feel. And then until I experienced it, I was like, fuck, dude, like it feels like you don't have a choice. Like you feel like you're stuck in a trench and you can't get out. You know what I mean? And you just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper every single day. And it's very difficult to get out. And so knowing that, I'm like, I can't even imagine like being at the top of your game, you're elite, and it's this that's breaking you down. It's something that's there that you're attached to, that you're connected to. And so that's, like I said, I'm really, really good at that when I work with my clients now, battling certain states of minds like that. So that's what inspires me.
Dude, hell yeah, man. Well, I know I speak for myself and everyone listening that we don't doubt that you're going to be doing that at a super high level, because just based off all the stuff that you've been saying today and all your ideas and sort of the techniques that you've gone through and your own personal growth and development, super inspiring, dude, and super articulate the way you broke all the stuff down. I mean, I think it was definitely simplified to a level where, and people obviously, like, when you're going to do this stuff, dive in, but be aware that having someone to help climb that mountain with you, right? They say don't hike alone for a reason. It's the same thing with this stuff. You should probably have someone around you just to hold the space if need be, who you can trust and who has got your back 100%, and most importantly is not judgmental. Because when you're at your most vulnerable, if someone's judgy, that could easily traumatize someone to never share anything again with anybody. And so much of this is just speaking, right, and letting things go and moving through. So, dude, to your point, man, like, I just thought that you just dropped so many freaking bombs today, so many nuggets, so much awesome stuff. And dude, I really appreciate you, man. And I'm so glad we finally got to connect and we got to do this. And I'm so excited for everyone to hear this message. And I guess the only thing I'd say, dude, is number one, where can people find you? And number two, like, what else, if there's anything, do you feel called to share before I know you got something to do here in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for being considerate too the time. Yeah, people can find me on Thinc, THINC_. You have a better chance of getting in touch with me on my personal page on Instagram on Rob Reynosa, ROBREYNOSA _ as well. If you feel compelled, like you need to like reach out to me on another level, you can email me too as well at thereisnoceiling@gmail.com, and just say where you heard me from, or if you heard me on Graham's podcast here, and we'll have a conversation. I'm always open to that. But yeah, that's the best way to get in touch with me. Is there anything here that I want to drop?
Yeah. Anything else you feel called to share?
Don't take shit so personally. Don't take shit so personally, and don't allow yourself to get in a place where you fear going outside and being around people. If you fear other human beings, and this is, I think one of the worst things that we could do individually is be afraid of other people. Period. Just being afraid of other people is ridiculous to me. I feel like every single person here is a creator. Like we are here to consciously create the reality that we want, that we desire. It's available to us. If we know how to use our mind correctly, if we know how to act correctly and put ourselves in positions correctly, you can have whatever it is that you want, as long as you're clear about whatever it is that you want. You have to identify that. When you're living in a state of fear and you're fearing other people, because in order to make things work, you need people. You can't do shit alone. Like, you need people, whether it's hiring somebody as a coach, personal development work, business transactions. You need other human beings. Like, the world cannot operate without each other, right? If you're fearful of other people, if you're fearful of your environment, if you're fearful for your health, if you're fearful for everything that's going on in the world, you cannot create what you want. You can't. It's impossible. You're going to keep creating everything that resonates with that fear. And if you don't like your reality right now and you're living from fear, that reality will keep repeating itself. That's one thing that all of us are consistently good at, is repeating our past. And that ties into the work that I do with people. You start to heal your past and you start to create a new future, right? So if you're fearful of what's happening in the world, if you're fearful of your own self, if you're fearful for your fellow other human being who is just like you will never get anywhere, and you will never create whatever it is that you do want. If you want a relationship, you won't get that relationship. If you want more money, if you want to create more wealth, if you want to create that impact, you won't be able to do it. You'll stop yourself before you even get started. And you'll probably switch to different ideas and different inspirations and different passions until you go crazy. And I see that happen all the time. Even before everything that was going on in the world, people just jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping because of fear too, though, but fear of other things. But now that we're in a place where there's constant promotion and suggestion of fear, this is the perfect time now to take control of your mind and take your power back. to reboot, to reset, to disconnect from everything and everyone, spend some time alone, spend some time away from the media, especially the mainstream media, and dive into books, dive into learning about how you can become a better person. If you want to see change, if you want to make an impact, if you really want to create that partner, whatever it is that you want, it has to start with you first changing yourself. And you have to be aware, though, that whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever emotions are dominant, that's what's going to be regurgitated in your reality. That's what you're going to create in your reality. So, one of the best ways to, in my opinion, to start to develop some sort of momentum with happiness is to get super clear about what it is you do want. Become inspired by identifying what you want to move towards. Because success, like, when people say success, like if you want to be successful in life, people think like you have to have a certain car or a certain amount of money in your bank, or you have to live in a certain location, or have, a certain wife or husband, or yada yada yada, all this stuff, right? Like, that's not, like, if that's your version of success, that's fine, that's cool. But really what success means is succession, right? It's moving in succession. It's having a goal, having some sort of marker that you're moving towards, and being in succession towards that goal. That, in my opinion, brings true happiness, because you feel like you're moving towards something, you're developing or something, because it's not about what you attain. It's not about what you get. It's about who you have to become. Because it's not, when I say have to, it's one of the rare times I say you have to do something. You have to become that person that acquires whatever it is that you want, that attains that. So that's what I want to leave you people with here.
Hell yeah, dude. Amazing. Thank you for summing it up like that at the end. That was so freaking lit. Peeps, Rob Reynosa, Legends Find a Way podcast. My man, appreciate you as always. Can't wait to chat again soon. Until then, use your gifts, serve one world. Legends Find a Way, brother. I'll catch you later.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for having me, man.
Adios, amigo.